Hello Podcats, Geoff Gascoigne here. Hope you're well. Today I'm in Box Hill and it's south of London. I'm going to speak to a legend of the British jazz scene. His name is Stan Sulzmann. He is a tenor player and a flute player, and he's got some great stories to tell. He's done it all. He's going to chat to me about Kenny Wheeler, about touring, about studio stuff. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to him. Here we go.
The Quartet Jazz Standards podcast is brought to you by the Quartet app for iOS, taking your jazz play along to another level.
Three pints, please.
Stan!
Do you come in, sir?
Oh, great to see you.
Right.
Lovely to see you.
You found it then, obviously.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, the sat nav's pretty good here, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, because it's a bit, as you can see what happens, people get obviously lost.
That's beautiful.
Stan,
Ah, there you are.
how lovely to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes,
yeah.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Can we talk about how you got started in jazz and your background of it?
I got a saxophone when I was about 13 because I lived in Essex, Harold Hill, big council house estate. I was born in the Angel Islington, actually, and we were rehoused after the Second World War, like a lot of people were from London.
Yeah, yeah.
And my dad was a semi-pro musician.
Right.
He played a bit of piano and accordion. He couldn't read music or anything, but he had a busking book with all the tunes, all the standards, you know. But it was just written out notes like A, C, D, E. It just didn't note it like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he played accordion. The accordion was a big instrument in those days. And then we moved to Essex. Eventually went to Harold Hill Grammar School, and of course that was still the days. Got instrument lessons and stuff were free in schools, and the instruments were free. You could go in and they give you something, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing now when you think about it. Out of what was available, I sort of asked for a flute or a French horn. I don't know why French horn. Anyway, but they'd all gone. So they'd all been taken. And I wasn't really doing music. I never did do music at school ever. Anyway, I was never allowed to take music. I mean, it's nuts, this. Anyway, so I was about 13 and my dad wasn't playing any longer. We were now in Essex. A long story short, he decided to sell it, and we went to Charing Cross Road, London, which used to have a Selmer shop. So anybody who knows about saxophones, called Selmer is one of the big mates. There was actually a Selmer shop in Charing Cross Road.
Right.
So in we trooped, you know, and of course I'm completely boggled with all these nice shiny instruments everywhere. And he bought me a second-hand Selmer Super Action, I think it was. Lovely old tenor, beautiful. And part exchange his accordion because he wasn't playing. And so back I went home to Essex, and there were no teachers anywhere or anything, and looked in the local paper, and we found a saxophone lessons from this guy Terry Porter who lived in Becontree near Dagenham. And of course it was a very unpopular instrument at the time. All my friends and the kids used to laugh at you. What's that? Yes, a saxophone.
Yeah.
Oh, because it was the age of three guitars and drums, as you know.
Yeah.
You know. But he was a great teacher, very good musician, but he had no formal training about jazz. He used to loan me his records.
Don't scratch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a lovely man too. We stayed in touch right up till he passed a few years ago. Taught you to play the instrument really well. It was a bit old school, you know. There was things like, well, no, you put it in, and you have to do this with your lip, and you mustn't do it. No, that's right. You know, it's like there was a way to do it, but it didn't work for me. You know, I was having trouble with lips and teeth and stuff. But these guys played in dance bands and stuff. But I mean, they made fantastic sounds. They projected sound. Like, funny enough, a little bit later on, I was still very young. Because of Andy McIntosh, and I knew Andy when he came in the National Youth Jazz Orchestra and through all that, and I got to, and we did a few gigs with his dad's big bands. He didn't have a saxophone section. You know, his dad would walk around the front of the stage playing the alto. It's a huge sound, and I don't mean huge, thin, raspy. It was just like an incredible. They knew how to fill a room with sound, and I was taught to play like that. You know.
Yeah. And did you transcribe?
Nobody ever talks about that. No, nobody told me about that. All I did was sit at home because nobody else. I didn't know anybody that liked jazz. I had nobody at all. Nobody except at school. My French teacher turned out played a bit of piano, but he didn't say much because it was a bit frowned upon in the school. You see, jazz was just all, you know. And the art teacher, I took my tenor in to show him, and he was thrilled. He said, "Oh, It's all a bit in the corner, and he was tall and thin with a big beard. And what did he play? Baritone, and he looked like Jerry Mulligan. That's what he loved it. You know, he was a baritone player.
Right.
But I didn't know anybody on the estate, and I used to just play in my bedroom with a little Danzek record player on a horrible thing on 4 legs. You know, and with the old black leg with the gold feet on and stuff. Mono, of course, you know, wonder of mono.
Yeah.
And you'd play your LPs. And I used to sit and play along with them. So I had records. There was ones that were nice to play along with.
Okay. So you've got your vocabulary from imitating stuff?
Well, just listening to those records and playing along. But I don't think I really had any vocabulary. Nobody ever talked about the idea. See, nobody ever said anything about any of that. I just played along and might picked up the odd phrase.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really didn't know how they did it. You know what I mean? So, but then we moved back to London. I was playing in a few pop groups type things at school, and then I took a job at Wimbledon Palais, which was great. 3 nights a week in the sort of a house band playing top 10 hits. It was a good, nice little band, but we just played pop tunes, you know. I had a red mohair suit and Beatle boots, and I loved it, you know. I was only 15, 16.
Yeah.
You know, imagine being in this massive ballroom where
Wow,
thousands
that's
of
young,
people.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I was on the side of the stage, and all these, so all the bands used to come to all the big rock. I mean, even the Beatles played there when they first started. And on Friday nights was the guest, and Jerry Lee Lewis, guy holding the piano legs up with Jerry Lee Lewis jumping about on top of this old white piano, you know.
Yeah.
It was mad.
Yeah.
But Georgie Fames used to come through there, and I loved Georgie's band. And then I was working there, and then somehow or other we got involved with a band, the guys who got a few gigs at the Flamingo in Wardour Street, which was the R&B club, you know.
Well, Georgie Fame talked about that all the time.
Yeah.
When on gigs.
Well, that's the time I used to go there, when he was there, because I was thrilled, because he'd be playing it, and we'd do these ridiculous things. You do the all-nighter.
The all-nighters, yeah.
To 6 in the morning. I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, travelling north, you could do a gig in Nottingham and get back in time to do the all-nighter. I mean, I was still at school. I should never have done it, really, you know, but I loved it. And I was still playing at the Wimbledon Palais. My dad saw an advert in the paper. So-and-so who was forming a jazz orchestra, the London Youth Jazz Orchestra, which became the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. Bill Ashton's forming this band, and, you know, looking for people interested to come along. So my dad called it up, because, you know, this is the day, or you just had a phone if you were lucky, you know, or you had to go out and use a payphone. And that's how I got involved in jazz, really, because that's the first time I met other people that liked jazz. Left school at 15, got a job in an insurance company because I was told that was a safe job, you know. That's what
something to fall back on, yes.
Yeah, this is your job, and then you play a bit in the evenings, which is why my dad bought me a saxophone, to do what he did. More playing those little pub gigs and stuff than he did working, you know, as a clerk. But anyway, I was still going to Niger at that time, you know. I was still young, only 16, 17. Somebody got in touch with Bill, they were short of a saxophone player to go on the Queen Mary. So that's how I went on there in 67, and I did a year on there. So 17 or 18, I went to New York, you know, in and out every 3 weeks.
Whoa.
On the Mary, which was me, like, I can't even begin to tell you.
But I mean, for a jazz musician to go to New York in the 60s, talk us through what you saw. I mean, what you must have seen.
Well, amazing because you couldn't get there any other. As you know, the famous one, you know, Dankworth used to do it. Ronnie Scott did it. Everybody took jobs on the Mary and stuff because there were no cheap flights. It cost you a fortune. So you get to New York and you docked on 52nd Street. So there you are. And the first thing I remember seeing is the Market Diner, a 24-hour restaurant which you'd never seen, never heard of, you know. So off we trooped in there, trying to get served. And then you carry on walking up 52nd Street, and the first place you came to was the Hickory House. So Indigo, which was like a Burnley Inn, like a steakhouse, big one. It had an oval-shaped stage in the middle of the room, and the trio was Billy Taylor Trio, with Grady Tate and Bob Cranshaw, you know.
God.
And they used to sit around the bar, and it was not really an entrance fee, just bought a drink, you know, which was reasonably expensive, but you could just go in and have a drink and hear the trio. And then we used to buy a paper called the Village Voice.
Village Voice, I remember it well.
And then look at it. Or there was a phone number called the Jazz Line. They used to find a phone booth or a phone somewhere, call the Jazz Line, and it went, "Good evening, jazz lovers, you know, in town tonight at the Blue Note we have blah blah blah." Cover charge so and so $2 or something, you know, Village Vanguard, and you have a bit of paper and a pencil and you sit there writing it all down. So we'd all be sat in the Hickory House, you know, we'd listen to
what are we going to see tonight?
So, where are you going? So, well, I'm going there. It was like, what were you? No, I want to go in here so and so. So and off we'd all go different places. But of course they all played till, like Ronnie's, they all worked till 3 in the morning. So you could make 2 or 3 places. You didn't have to go to one. So I mean, I went to all sorts of gigs, all sorts of things. I went loads to the Village Vanguard, Mel and Thad's band, the original band, the very original band, 6 or 7 times at least.
Yeah.
And saw Herbie Hancock depping with the band, with his head, with his glasses on, looking at the pile of paper, And in the Vanguard, I saw Bill Evans' trio with Philly Joe. Do you remember Les McCann?
Yeah.
It's great trio.
Compared to what? Yeah.
But at that time, his gospel thing, but with Leroy Vinegar.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten Leroy Vinegar. Is it funny? I talked to Dave Holland about that. I think he's got Leroy's old bass.
Really?
He's really had a thing about Leroy. I remember sitting in front, as a young kid, sitting in front of this big black guy with the biggest smile I've ever seen, playing the bass. With that walking thing with a big smile, like,
Well, I've got an album of his, Leroy Walks. Leroy Walks again, and he's just on the front of the cover with his bass, and he's walking with a big smile.
He's fabulous.
Wow.
Well, he's on some of those Sonny Rollins records as well, isn't he? I went to Blue Note. I saw Elvie with the band because that's the year Coltrane died. He didn't play anything. And he was a bit worse for wear, let's put it that way, Elvin, but I didn't really understand all this, and there was nobody in there. I mean, a lot of these clubs were empty.
Yeah.
Jazz was dying at that time. But I saw incredible things like Lionel Hampton Big Band at the Metropole Bar, the legendary bar, all in a straight line down the bar, because that's all the depth there was. It was a one straight long bar, that's all there was. And behind it was a raised bit, which is, say, from that wall to here. So there's only room to, one person or the drum kit or that. So depending on what you want to listen to,
you could move to the section
you move down the bar, one end to the other. Memorable. The 2 really memorable gigs. One was Joe Henderson with Kenny Barron, Lewis Hayes, and I saw that. And then the other major gig, which was fabulous. That was fantastic. Joe Henderson. Oh,
what a master!
Oh, we went to the Village Gate. We went in that classic double bill, Miles Davis Quintet and Dizzy Gillespie Quintet, and they got to the door. And the guy, said, "Where do you want to sit?" And it's only like $2 to get in or something. It was so cheap. I said, "Well, I don't know." The stage was built out, and it had like a couple of rows of just tables.
Yeah.
And I could see it was sort of fairly empty. I said, "Can we go there?" He said, "Yeah." So we sat on the stage in front of the bands.
Oh my God!
So in fact, and Dizzy's band was great with James Moody.
But the Miles band, that would have been Herbie, Tony, and Ron,
and Wayne. Yeah, that's the band I had. And I mean, I'd never heard any music like that ever. I mean, I've never heard any records or anything like that.
So by '67, they would have been fairly out, right?
It's a bit like Plug Nickel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would play standards, but it was going out, And I sat on the stage, and we just sat there with our mouths open. So.
God,
I couldn't
imagine what that's like.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh yeah, fantastic. I had no idea, completely puzzled by it,
Right. Did you understand what they were doing at this stage?
Of course not. I had no idea at all. You just go away with this thing that you've heard.
Wow.
Incredible.
So how was Miles on in that gig? What was he like to watch?
I found it's all a bit, I can't think of the right word. I was going to say frightening, scary, but if a bit dark, I suppose, is the kind of way. They're all kind of serious, and they all walked on. Miles didn't say anything, got his back to the band, and there's a few taps his foot up, and I think it went, and and that's it. And I was just sort of looking at these, as opposed to say like Dizzy, who's telling funny stories.
Completely opposite, isn't it?
Complete opposite. There's a show, but Miles was just the music,
Dave Holland talks about that, doesn't he? He talks about his first experience with Miles, just walking onto the stage with Jack DeJohnette, and he says that Miles didn't speak, he just started, and it was and Dave, he described it as just being pulled along in a force field by the band, just being swept up into it. That's right. He knew Jack DeJohnette.
He knew Jack in London, and he met him. I was at that gig. I went to those gigs. Jack DeJohnette was playing with Bill Evans at Ronnie's. Is what was going on. And the first sets, Dave Holland was playing with Ronnie Scott's quartet. And Ronnie never used to play the first sets because there's nobody in.
That's when Miles saw Dave play.
And and so the story, called out and all that stuff. I think Tony Williams was not pleased that Dave was coming. He didn't want sort of white English bass player turned up. It was not what he wanted. He said Herbie was fantastic. Just called, said, come round in the afternoon, and he said, look, we might do this. Showed him a few things. He said, you can't have any music on the stage. It was just unheard of. He said, but look, write a few things just on a piece of paper, put me in the well of the piano, look over. So that's what he did. He said Herbie was really nice to him, looked after him. And so was Tony later on. It all kind of settled, and I think he may have sort of apologised to him for being so hard on him. But, and Wayne is Wayne, isn't he? I mean, I presume he's sort of out out to lunch somewhere. You know, he sort of, well, he was, wasn't he? You know, in a nice way.
He's on another planet, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he was sort of walking around, you know.
Yeah.
Talk about baptism of fire, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did that whole year hearing all this music. And of course, I was very young, very naive. Nobody taught me anything. I had a great schooling and everything. I had a great life. But nobody taught me very much about making a life or something. You know, it was just this, get a decent job, you know, you'll be right, something safe. So.
How old were you when you quit the day job then?
Well, I came off the boat, so I would have been 18. Then I went to the BBC and worked in the record library for a short period because I thought it was something connected with music. I was basically a librarian at Egton House, you know, just up from there. So, and then this job came on the Mary, so I was 67, so I was born in 48, you can work it out, you know. When I came off, I tried for the Guildhall and I didn't get in because I was trying to do first study flute and obviously it wasn't good enough, although I wanted flute lessons. Then I went to the academy and did saxophone and flute, and I got in. And of course John Dankworth was the first guy that came in teaching saxophone at the academy, and they put me with him. But funny enough, by that time I just started doing gigs with his band, and so I spent 3 years at the academy. But I was what you would call a mature student, you know. I was also married incredibly young, and I was gigging a lot and working with these bands. And I had a great time at the academy. I wasted a lot of it, I think, in hindsight, things that I could have done and learned about. But I didn't have the mental mechanisms. I didn't understand how. So I entered in the business and thinking it was just about being a musician, not inverted commas a jazz musician. I mean, I actually played at the Bag and Owls with Jimi Hendrix. He just come and played the bass. Can I sit in on a bass guitar? Yeah, sure, you know. We were like just kids, you know, with an amateur rock and roll, blues band, R&B type band, you know. So I was married then, and I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and I mean, you know, like 3 or 4 when we were asleep. I mean, who is it? Oh, it's Pete King here. You know, Ronnie's Pete. Yeah. He said, you working on Friday? You know. I went, Pete, it's 3 o'clock. Yeah, he said, well, got a gig for you. It's in Germany. It's Kenny Clark, Francie Bowler Big Band. Do you want to do it? You know. I'm going, what? It was a record with Stan Getz. So you've got to remember, I'm only like 20 or 21 or something. I mean, only for 3 years before, I had a collection of 78 with Stan Getz records that I'd bought in Dobles with my dad. I went, oh. Yeah. See, because they knew I could read because I'd been in Dankworth's band. So the next minute, I went with Tony Coe because Tony won't fly anywhere. He's terrified of flying. Right. So I went on the ferry and the train to Cologne. So I turned up there to do this gig, you know, and of course I was thrilled, just one thing, but I was terrified, absolutely petrified, you know. I mean, I don't know any of these people.
You're mixing with the big boys here, aren't you? I mean, this is
at the time, you know, and it was and of course everybody knew everybody, so you know that kind of thing. Everybody's backslapping and cuddling and hey man, how you doing? Oh, it's all firing on because I don't know anybody, you know, just Derek Watkins and stuff. And so anyway, I sat there and I do the gig and it all went fine. I remember when sort of Stan Getz appeared in the room because I'd had all these records, and then some of the English guys, are probably best to say, I won't name names, but some of the guys that were well known at the time, and through that, you know, when the music had gone very kind of everybody was Coltrane mad, you know, modal kind of music mad, and thought everything had to be full on, you know, like energy. Stan Getz, you know, it's terrible, hasn't got a sound, you know, that wispy thin sound. Anyway, in walks Getz, and I'm sort of, I couldn't believe it, you know, stands right in front of me because he's in front of the saxes, and tenor out, starts playing, and like the whole room is just filled with this sound. It's the same thing about projection, making a sound. It isn't volume. That's not what it is. So that's the first time I learned about what that is. It's something different. It's something about being centred and about making things go that way. Getz was nice. I met him again in London at Ronnie's after that. He's very nice. People have always put, as have I, you know, put big bands together because we like for fun. But I mean, Francie's, that band, Kenny Clark, Francie Bowler, man, because of the people in it, it got good gigs and could do a tour or something, you know. Anyway, but through working at Ronnie's, and other guys were in the band that were doing studio work and some studio work, you know, like Chris Pine. Well, Ken Wheeler did, you know, he was doing loads of studio work, TV shows. And,
a lot of sessions around in those days.
Well, there was a load of work, there was a ton of work because we are completely pre-synthesizers and computers and everything. So rock and roll bands don't hire horns to come in and play stuff, but there was TV shows if you were a good doubler, films and this, that and the other. And so all of a sudden somebody called me out of the blue, you know, to work for one of the fixers. Because they were always looking for who's coming up. you work suddenly for David Katz, and then one of the other ones would hear about you, and then your name would be passed, and someone else would bring you up. Next minute you'd be getting studio work, because it's all freelance, obviously, as you know, and you work for these people who, they were very dubious characters, you know. There was so much work, you could walk out of things if you didn't like it, and walk out and still have plenty of work, because
did you find yourself on big pop sessions and things like this?
We did loads of stuff.
What sort of things did you do?
Things for Elton John. But of course, on your titles, it would just be a working title. But working, so you didn't know what tracks, and we never wrote any of them down, because it was just, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I don't know, something down at Henley. You turned up, and went, what are we doing? Oh, it's Elton John tracks, you know. You wouldn't even know before you got there, and by the time you'd left, you'd be in too hurry to get to the pub, and you weren't really bothered.
You just forgotten already.
Yeah, you didn't write any of it down or anything, because obviously it became later on when PPL opened up, everybody was trying to scramble up to find what they played on. I've got a few McCartney things I did, you know.
Right.
Broad Street, and then some other. Then there was a Christmas single I played on. At that time, my marriage had fallen apart. I was getting divorced. I was on my own, and I got this call. Oh, we're doing a promo video of that record with McCartney. So, would you like to do it? Well, I needed the money, because I was, you know, things had gone a bit wrong. So off I went. We made this little video, and then we got the promo gigs. About 6 or 7 of those, running around Europe in his plane. You know, his little private plane, doing these things. And at the end of it, I think it was very nice. He treated us all very well. At the end of it, he said, would you be interested in blah, blah, blah? I think Paul's going to do a big tour next. I said, no. You know, I've got a son at home, which is true. My son was living with me, my eldest son. And the truth is, we probably wouldn't get on, because I'm a jazz fan. You know, I don't really like this music much. I did do another record for him later on, which he never came out. He got very interested in songs and Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
So he wrote these couple of songs, and he asked me, would you play a solo? You play a solo? So I thought, he's not going to like this, Paul. I knew what he was like, you know, because I'd already done this Christmas single. What he wants is someone just play the tune, you know.
Yeah.
So I'll do what I'm told. In the sessions, you do what you're told. Paul kept saying, yeah, sounds great, but can you come up, you know, and have a listen? Yeah, no, but try another one, you know, like, you know, take 10 or something, you know, take 12. He says, yes, really little. So it was not. I said, Paul, shall I just play the tune? He went, yeah. So I played it. He went, fantastic, thanks, great. You know, that's me doing sessions was going to work. Start being a musical plumber, basically.
Yeah.
And but I met fantastic people.
Can we talk about your partnership association with Kenny Wheeler?
Yeah, so I first met Kenny when, funnily enough, when I was still working at Wimbledon Palais. Goes right back to then.
Right.
And, you heard of Tin Pan Alley, which is off Charing Cross Road, was where all the pop records were made, which you were talking about. I had to go along and do this session, you know, I can't remember what we got paid. And the trumpet player walked in, which was Ken. But I didn't know, he's so quiet, you know, he's legendary at that time, he was really quiet. And so was I was like him, I never used to say a word to anybody. I was so shy and very insecure as a person, you know, I wasn't very grown up in a way. We sat together and sort of said hello. I said something about jazz, you know, I said, I do National Youth Jazz, I love it, you know. Oh, that's great, you know, like his old quiet voice. And we played this thing, and he sort of got through it all. And then off he went, because he wasn't enjoying being there, you know, Ken really didn't like this sort of And that was my first meeting with Ken. But then the first time I heard his music, he got a gig at one of the summer schools, Barry Summer School. So there was this 12-piece band, which I was playing in, and we turned up, and some of the music was a Ken Wheeler piece called 25 Blue, which is actually one of the pieces on Windmill Tilton. And it was like, it's just like the whole world opened up, you know, when you play music that you identify with.
Yeah.
It's the same with John Taylor, you know, with John's...
So they had, both of those guys had their own theme quite early on.
Yeah, really.
In terms of composing.
Yeah, I mean, John developed and changed a bit. I mean, you might say there was quite a bit of Herbie type stuff, you know. He probably would have not liked me to say that, but maybe there was, you know. I mean, the early lineup was a bit like... it was a record we all love, which is Herbie's record, was Speak Like a Child.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic record.
Brilliant,
but that lovely sound, you know, with the front line.
Yeah, with the alto flute and the bass trombone. Yeah.
But John's writing was fabulous. It was... because it wasn't a sextet, it wasn't like an Art Blakey one. Not there's anything wrong with that, that's great as well, but, you know, the horns move kind of written voice together.
It's kind of a classical thing, isn't it? That's the whole approach comes more from classical music.
Well, it was a different, it was really... John was very broad, you know,
Yeah.
he drew a lot but the trombone would be written with the bass and the piano would be playing a line. So piano didn't just sit and play chords, you know. Did lots of stuff where I'd be playing the one line with Kenny's trombone would be with that, and John's, you know, there'd be 3 or 4 different things going on. Lots of linear playing, some things using some odd meters. John used to like writing things that threw a spanner in the works, but not to be clever or to be nasty, but I think he quite liked being naughty. He always had a thing about, if there was a rotten piano, he'd start pedalling the loud pedals and he'd start playing, if you go down in the woods today, you're in for it, and start nodding his head like, you know, you're like, he loved being sort of playful and naughty, you know,
right.
part of his character. And he'd throw in an odd bar somewhere. You go, like trip up, you know.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about it was, it made you stop doing all your prescribed thing, which is kind of it. You're out of your comfort zone, and you suddenly find yourself doing something different, and you might play a note that you didn't like or something because you've tripped and you go, oh, I'm sorry, John, I played a. You go, no,
That's
you
what
meant to
he's
play
after.
that.
Yeah.
You say, no, that's great, you know. And he loved things going a little bit pear-shaped here, there.
Yeah,
I don't mean he's hunting disaster, but he liked that thing being on the edge, you know, which of course makes it very exciting. John's sextet was, for me, was like the whole world changed, and the same with Ken, you know, in the different same thing in those melodies and I mean, the whole thing, and because it never leaves you ever. You just remember that forever. Yeah. And it's where I started. One of the interesting things was, so I kind of missed out playing on standards and stuff. Although I've been on the boats and playing tunes, and I loved all the music. I got a collection of records and all that stuff. You know, I never got to play it, and it was very hard. A bit like Ken used to talk about. You lived in, he never got to work with all those people. You know, why did he end up with going to the free things with John Stevens?
But presumably that's a choice, though. Kenny would have made, and John, you know, they would have made deliberately not to play standards by composing their own music.
Ken, I'm talking about in particular, found it hard. These odd groupings of notes and stuff. It wasn't bebop. He didn't sing.
It wasn't bebop, yeah.
So I always got terrible time. But of course, he actually Ken had the most incredible time. It's just he didn't. It was all like, you know, there's groups of God knows what going sevens and and I'm trying to play tunes, but I didn't understand the mechanics of it, you know. But by moving into Ken's music and John's music, I understood their music. And that's why I probably got on so well with them. I'd learned how to play their music and interpret their music, as John would say. John once said to me, he said, "You're a really great interpreter.
Yeah.
Give me something to play and I'll interpret what you've written on the paper." And very quick, because in those days you had to work fast. There's no time to get things done, you know.
That Flutter By Butterfly album is one of my favourite albums.
That's a lovely record, Well, it was, Kenny had a tour. So do you fancy doing a little tour in Europe is for a month, and we're probably going here and there. But it wasn't that long before the tour should have started. It was quite late on. Yeah. So Dave Holland was always going to be on it. You know, Dave's very well known anyway, you know, because of his connections. JT was making quite a name. There should have been another horn player. And same with the drum chair. And I know that they did try. I thought about trying to get Roy Haynes or Elvin Jones, but it's Billy Elgar who played it great, you know, because Billy kind of met him in Germany. He just moved there from the States, and he liked him and took a chance on him. Out of kindness, in a way, I think Ken was like, you know, he asked me to play in his band, you know, thank you, but of course, business-wise, it was not a good move. So a lot of the gigs went out the window. I mean, I didn't understand this or know anything about this at the time because I wasn't involved in setting any of it up. But when we came to do it, a lot of the gigs went. I know everybody talking, I was just saying that one's gone, that one's gone. The promoters pulled out because they wanted whoever this big name was that should have been whoever it was. You know, let's say Jan Gabrek or it wouldn't have been Michael Brecker, but someone like that, some big name, and the drummer would have been. Imagine if it had been Elvin or Roy Haynes. You know, the whole world changes. I mean, it's the world of business. Dave Holland, because of his American passport, could get this special ticket that you can buy in Europe. You couldn't get it if you were English, and it was a special ticket, a rail ticket that was valid for a month, and you got it stamped on the day you started, and it was first class anywhere in Europe for 1 month. So it was like for American tourists, really. You know?
Wow.
So he bought 5 of these tickets for us. So I turned up there and a whole pile of tunes arrived. And we started off, we did the rehearsals, went on the road. And then we got to Italy. And that guy Bonandrini with Soul Note label used to record bands that passed through, and he just paid you cash. It's the old-fashioned way, like Blue Note. They're like the original,
like the Concord, the original
old record labels that used to just pay you, and that was it. You never did the label, the sleeve, nothing. You just goodbye, and that was it. It's ours,
Yeah, right.
We all went into the studio. It was all done in a day, I think. I don't know if we did two in Milan, and it was all crammed in, tiny little place.
Yeah.
You know, it was supposed to be an ECM record, but when everything went wrong with whoever these people are that should have been in the band, he pulled out of it. He didn't want to record it. So I ended up playing on this record. It's fantastic, you know. I love playing those tunes, fantastic tunes. They're all great. All the tunes on there are great, you know. So lucky me, you know. But I learned a little bit. You start to understand how the business works. That it's not just about playing, you know. You bums on seats. But in the middle of all that, great things do get done and made, you know.
Yeah. So then, of course, you went on to an album that's come up a lot when I've been talking to people. Is the music from Large and Small Ensembles?
Oh yeah, the big band one. Yeah,
which is a favourite album of so many people.
Yeah, that's another one, isn't it? It's a classic.
What's your memories of that?
So that was the same thing. It was part of a tour. So we played the music in, which was great. That was done at the old CTS Wembley. Manfred appeared, Eric's Conk's house. He had it all set up. So because we were in mid-tour, so we just turned up at 10. Everything was all set, all in a semicircle. Very little screening, so we could play live. We played the pad, basically, the suite, which had been written for that tour, which is a fabulous suite.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful one. And then the other odd pieces, and then the small group pieces were to fill up the time to make it into an album. I think we did everything. There was one tune, was it called Tickety Boo or something? Very, very fast, ridiculously fast, sort of fun thing, that sort of thing that everybody had a roar up on, you know. Yeah. And we did record that, but Manfred went, no, we don't use this. We don't want. He did because it was too much jazz. It was too much roar up.
And was Kenny? Did he find it easy to lead a big band? Because I know he was quite a shy fellow.
Well, he did. He always had a conductor. He didn't. I've never known Kenny stand in front of the band and do the carving. John Taylor used to leave the piano and conduct the opening part, that lovely chorale thing.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. But everything else, there was always a conductor, you know, different people. He just wanted to sit in the band and he would say a few things now and again, and he would basically leave people to get on with it, you know, sort yourselves out. But if you've got the right players in the band and people to lead things, and it kind of takes care of itself.
And the writing was so strong, wasn't it? Yeah. It was just, the arranging was so strong. So I asked you if you wanted to play something today, and you chose a tune, didn't you?
Yeah, well, as you've been talking about, and we talked a lot about Ken Wheeler, and I've had a few health issues which have made life change a bit, so I'm like with that. I thought I'd play Gentle Piece, which is a lovely tune of Ken's.
Tell us about that composition. When did you first discover that tune?
It might have been that on that big band record, or I wonder if we played it before or not. It's very hard to remember.
Yeah,
like a lot of the music from Ken and John, things they would morph into this, into that. Particularly with John, you know, his music all grew from. There might be a tune, and then a year later you'd hear. So that's a bit like, but it's like it had grown on the end of the other one. It was an extension of it, and he often used to think like that. You know, that way of writing where one thing leads to another, rather than here's a new tune, here's a new tune. Yeah. That one thing had grown from something else. It's a lovely way of doing things.
Let's play Gentle Piece, shall we?
Yeah. Okay.
It's beautiful, Sam. How did it feel playing it again? Because I know you haven't played for a while.
I mean, I think with a lot of great music, the music takes over all the other things you have to deal with in life, and I really enjoyed it. But just to be able to do a little thing like that gives us a lot of pleasure, and brings back memories.
Yeah, sure.
And with a tune like Gentle Piece, it asks different things of you. You don't have to play a lot of notes maybe or move. You can adapt the way you play, which is what I've sort of been trying to do over the last year or couple of year and a half.
Yeah.
Is change the way. If you want to do things, there's always a way. You can find ways, whatever your problems are. I always think of one of my favourite jazz musicians. It's Roland Kirk. I love early Roland Kirk. I absolutely love Roland.
Right.
And of course, he had a stroke in the end, and he could play with one, but he's still playing. You know what I mean? With the most ridiculous things, and he still found a way to play because he wanted to play. He would do it, and so it was just really nice to play that again and to talk about that record, because it was a great record. Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, so to finish off, I've got some questions, if that's all right with you. Yeah. Have you got a favourite album?
I love Mel and Thad's band, which I heard in '67, and this record was recorded in '66. Is the one with Joe Williams, and I love that record. So sheer joy, going back to being a kid. A Cannibal record. I love Cannibal at the Lighthouse. The original record with Victor Feldman. I love Victor Feldman. Joe Henderson I love, so pick something of Joe's. And John Taylor, the trio records he made are wonderful. And actually, one of John's ones I'd not heard before, but it made, obviously many, many years ago, but got released, is the one he made with Norma in the Guildhall. It's fantastic. And because I knew them both and travelled a bit, and a few times we did gigs together with them, and the memory of those two, that was a fantastic pairing, those two, It's almost impossible to do because... As soon as you think of anything, but what about that? Oh, no, I mustn't forget that one. Yeah. And so it goes on.
Yeah, you've mentioned loads of them anyway, already. What about a favourite musician, alive or dead, that you would like to have played with?
Ooh. Oh, crikey, that is hard, isn't it?
You've played with so many people. I just love the fact that you played with Jimi Hendrix.
It's true.
I mean, it's just so diverse.
I know, it's so daft, isn't it? I didn't even know who he was. Anyway, I'm a massive Herbie Hancock fan. I'd love to have done it once. Well, I did because I was a studio player. I played on the record with Joni Mitchell. Both sides now.
Right.
I played on.
No, that was a special record, wasn't it?
Sometimes I'm happy. The one where he plays piano solo, and I played flute on that.
Did you?
And I'm only just playing the written part, but I'm so thrilled that I'm on it because Herbie's there.
That's a magical record, that really is. That's Vince Mendoza, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you've probably talked about this before, but a highlight of your career?
Well, there's a slightly odd one, as maybe, but I'm trying to get it put out, but there are issues to do with who owns it and stuff. Is I did with John Taylor, we did a broadcast with the Radio Bremen Symphony Orchestra of all of John's music, all his music that he orchestrated for the symphony orchestra, and John did all the writing, and it's just myself and John. I played soprano and a bit of flute on it, and John plays the piano, and we went to Bremen and recorded it with the orchestra there. It was for a broadcast, and we had 5 days in the studio. So it was like rehearse, record one or two, and then on the last day they did a mix and everything. I mean, I love that record, but it's not a record, it's not anything, it's a broadcast with a few people I played it to. But for it not to exist somewhere for people to hear John's because the writing is absolutely fabulous, and John plays fantastic on it, and it's a great tragedy that it doesn't get heard. And for me, it was the most incredible week. I learned so much from him and admired his music. That was really the high point, to be asked by him to come play and do that broadcast. So I hope it sees the light of day.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. What was the last concert you attended?
Something I went to. But I just went down to Watermill, my local jazz club, to Sullivan Faulkner Trio. I went to hear that, American Fabulous. He's great. I think he's from New Orleans. It's like touch at the piano. Herbie, touch at the piano. John Taylor, touch. Victor Feldman at the piano, touch. Nicky Hiles, touch. They've all got this thing about sound. Well, he's got it. When he puts his hands on a piano, a lot of people crash around, do all sorts of stuff. He puts, which for me, I mean, it's different for different people, but and it's like, that's it. Fresh.
And organic,
I've really enjoyed that. I thought that was a lovely concert.
What would you say is your musical weakness?
This one thing I wish I'd have done much earlier, well, like an awful lot of things. I came to sort of trying to learn about let's call it the standard repertoire, not so much learning language, because I didn't do that. I didn't do any transcribing, which maybe I regret. But when I was late 30s, coming out to 40, I thought I could sort. I went and got lessons, and I went to see Geoff Simpkins, wonderful player, and he's a fantastic teacher.
Quite late to be taking lessons, isn't it? So how was that?
Well, I've always enjoyed it, but I've done it with lots of things. People think you said. I started off. I asked Phil Lee, who was fabulous as well. Phil really helped me incredibly amount. I said, and Phil was teaching me, and he said, you create a line, then you've got to motivate the line. Well, how do you make the line move? Make a line move. Will you play the jazz quaver? If you like, well, this is in simplistic terms. And. Your harmonies, your information, as you're moving to point to point. There was a whole set of things that he came up with that made so much sense that nobody had ever talked about to me.
I love that.
And I thought
that phrase, motivate the line. That's a great phrase, isn't it?
It is, yeah. How do you make it move? Because a lot of people don't care, but it's important how you make that line move and then make it move.
Did that change after you had those lessons? Did that change the way you approach things then?
Yeah. I started to listen to things in a different way. I'd never been that interested before in like Warren Marsh and people like that. And it became a big craze. I know he did. But I became very interested in listening to the way they published all the Tristano, which of course Mark Copeland knew about that. I remember playing with Mark, and once we played a standard, and he said, "Do you know so-and-so?" I said, "Oh yeah." So I'm not sure the change is so-and-so. He said, "Okay, E minor, on a bit of paper, nothing. B minor." So it's the barest bones, But that's all you needed, because whatever you played, he wasn't going to play those root chords
just
anyway.
Just a rough tone centre to play.
And he would follow you around. So whatever you played, he was playing with what you played. If you play that, I'm going to put green in with that. If you play that, I'm going to put a blue in there. So all the chords were like colours and fit. So he was painting pictures. Amazing. And you couldn't play a wrong note. This didn't exist. There's a lovely recording with Tim Hagens, trumpet player, that he made a quartet one with Bill and Gary Peacock.
I've heard that as well,
And there's one where they play on Green Dolphin Street. It's fantastic. The solos are fabulous on it. And it's all linear playing. Tim Hagens' solo, very much in that way of playing. So I got very interested in that. I moved away from all the kind of, when I was younger, I was thinking like everybody else. People were telling me, "Oh no, the way to go is, it's all full on, try and straighten the horn out, blows." I tried all that and it didn't work. I wasn't really enjoying it. It didn't work for me.
Do you ever get nervous on stage?
Yeah, I used to be terrified all my life. As a personality, my upbringing was, I was quite nervous. I'm very shy, very retired. I've always been very tall and big. I felt awkward as a kid. I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere really, although it's not true, because people were lovely to me and other things, But so it's not that any of it's necessarily true, but it's what you feel like isn't actually what's reality. I've done the whole bit. I went through really heavy counselling when my marriage went, and I changed so many things. Start to look at yourself and hold on a minute. At one point, there was a while when beta blockers applied, and all the guys were orchestral players. They're all, because the Purrs sit in an orchestra, and nobody knew. They didn't tell anybody about it. A lot of them started to use them.
Just to calm them down.
You down.
So
take that adrenaline. It's the adrenaline. You're completely crushed by the. My fingers were turned to bananas. So I couldn't do anything. So I went to see the doctor, and he put me a small amount. And I only ever took them when I had a big gig to do, concert to do. I thought I was going in danger of. I thought I'd try it out, and I did for a while, and they worked. And it was the first time I'd ever learned what it was to not be shaking when I went on the stage. My nerves were frozen. Because you lose some of the adrenaline, excitement, natural rushes. That's the price you pay. But you function. That's the difference, is you function, trying to play the flute when you're terrified, I can't tell you, I'm picking it up, I'm like this, shaking, you're trying to, well, that's bad for stuff. I think you can't live like this, playing like this. This isn't a way to make music. And of course, I'm so envious of other people I've seen through my life, great players, but they're very different in personalities, driven. They don't have any fear, they're not looking at you, they just go out the front and zing. At the front, great, bang.
Especially for young musicians as well, you have to have the confidence just to get up there and actually improvise to start with, don't you?
It's a big deal. Somebody said the way this voice would put it was, it's a very naked experience. It's like being undressed in public, isn't it? Because you let people see you if you're playing for real. Just playing what comes out of you, and you're giving it out, and you don't know whether anybody's
you're bearing all, aren't you? Okay, what's your favourite sandwich?
Oh, a sandwich. Oh, it's a good one, isn't it?
You weren't expecting that, were you?
I've had a few over the years. They change from time to time. I tell you what, this is nuts. There we are. I had one the other day because a really nice cheese and big slices of onion through it. I used to put that in a roll.
Yeah.
And it's a simple, very plain thing, with some salt on it.
What about a favourite movie?
Oh, I do like films. A musical film. Oh, The Producers.
Great.
I absolutely love that film.
Yeah.
From the very first time I ever saw it. The first producer, the original, with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
And
that's Springtime for Hitler, isn't it?
Yeah. I absolutely love that film. I can't say, every time I see it, I just fall about laughing,
What about a favourite venue?
I used to like the old original Vortex because I liked the sound in
That was the one in Stoke Newington, wasn't it?
Newington,
yeah, it was the upstairs.
Yeah,
that was
sort
great.
of terrible, dodgy old room in the old building, but the sound in there was great. It was an old building with
It was
nothing
above
much.
a bookshop, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I loved the whole thing about it. I loved Dave Mossman. I used to really like Dave. Get on so well with him.
Yeah.
I loved the vibe in there. I loved the people.
Yeah.
And the gigs were great fun. It was a great venue.
I had some great times there, yeah. What about travelling? You obviously travelled a lot. Have you got a favourite place in the world, a city or a country?
I love going to Italy, particularly before things went wrong health-wise and stuff. I've had good times there. Germany, I've been a lot. Of course, I've always had some good cities there. But Italy's such a lovely place. I love the food and the people are nice.
So finally, have you got a favourite chord?
Favourite chord? What? C major 7th sharp 11? No, not that one. Anything but that. No, not that. Every other film, it's that chord again. Oh, I don't know. That's a very funny one, isn't it? I really like chords with big, extended, open tops. It's the thing I love from Mike Gibbs. He knew about when he's writing. Yeah. He could put 3 notes together, and you'd have this huge, because your ear would fill in all those.
So when you're arranging, that's a really good point.
So it might be like a C7,
very open
C7 with an A triad over the top of it, or something else, and just a simple chord, but by leaving out all the other notes, and you put all these. And your ear, I love that your ear being stretched, and I do love listening to harmony. Like a lot of us, I went through a period I was sort of fanatical about Bill Evans, and he used to write down all these chord sequences, all these tunes, and that's the ones you played. In actual fact, they don't work very well with quartets and quintets. There's too much information in a way, and that's the other thing, it can stop you improvising because you're playing on those chord sequences rather than
trying to find a linear line through it,
find your own way through it, and not have to designate all the chords in that way. It's just, I don't like the word slash chords, but it's
polychords.
Polychords, yeah. John used those in a fantastic way. Some of those tune like Windfall. It's full of them. It's fantastic. And I was around when he wrote that, when they were coming out. So I do like that kind of harmony. And that does connect a little bit with, some of the classical music. Through Mike Gibbs, really, I've got very Messiaen music, and but also Bartoks and the Ravels and all the rest of them. Some fantastic writers.
Have you put some of that into your big band, which I'm a particular fan of? The tunes
I did try and do it. Because at that time, as I was doing a lot of study, I was with a guy called Geoffrey Wilson, who also was very important to me. I went
studying in
composition. Composition.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be going there and doing orchestration or just writing for big bands or orchestra, and it turned into something else. He's a lovely guy. He's a fantastic teacher. Spoke to him recently, and he was very interesting because he studied with Messiaen as well. He had some lessons with him. He said the thing is you have to write true to your heart. He said, and he told me a lovely story with Messiaen, with one of the other students who, as you do, go to him with you. It's your lesson on Thursday, and you turn up with this piece. And so, and Mr. Messiaen would go and say, "What do you bring to that?" "Oh, I've written this new piece, blah blah." And he'd give it to him to play. And he'd look at it, and he'd look it through, and he'd play on the piano, and say, "Yeah, she's very good, excellent." He said, "But it's not you. Music to please Messiaen. You write in his style, Don't copy my music." And Geoffrey said my music is quite diatonic, very simple. Although he'd studied with all these people that he loves, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's just a language, isn't it? And what you choose has got to be the one that you like. Ken Wheeler pared his down. He used to write quite complex chords with things. Bunches of grapes we used to call them, didn't he? There'd be a bunch of grapes hanging off the top of the chord because nobody could ever. You'd never get that far, By the time you worked it out, it's gone, And Duncan Lamont used to say, "Oh, I only play off of the big letters," It's lovely, Duncan, but because he worked so much abroad, he realised the difficulties of getting your music played. So, and I know I worked with a lot of the people that he worked with in that period.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of the Europeans that were into sort of free-ish jazz, they weren't into changes at all, you know.
Yeah.
Ken was the harmonist. So I know what happens. You turn up and the rehearsal's at 2:00 and the concert's at 7, you know, in somewhere in Germany, and everybody brings a piece to play in this group. Now, Ken's put his piece and everybody's, oh, it's a wonderful piece. But you can see they're all puzzled and worrying, you know, it's complicated. And it would always go to the back of the book. Maybe we do this as an encore.
Yeah.
We do it as the encore, but it runs out of time. There is no encore.
Because it doesn't get played.
It doesn't get played. Not because they don't like it, I love it, but it's too hard.
Yeah.
So Ken, I think, simplified his palette. So if you talk about the artist's palette, which you have on your arm, you have all these colours, how can I cut it down? So there's a very few chord types. A lot of these tunes, like the ones we play, like minor chords, it doesn't matter if it's minor 11th, minor 7th, whatever, it's a minor chord. He pared it down to make it, then it reaches so many people, which it has done, and makes it accessible. But,
Did you find yourself doing that as well then?
Try to, because I think you learn the lesson, you know. The more complicated you make it, the harder it is for anybody to get to. That's a difficult thing as well, isn't it? People say, well, you know, you start limiting what you write. You know, I'm a writer, I need to write this, and people write like millions of notes and all that. And I'm thinking, well, any way you can make it easy? Do you really need all that? Yes, I have to have this, you know, and that's, you know, all right, you know, but you know what's going to happen. I mean, in an ideal world, when you get weeks, people pay you to have a week's rehearsal for one piece or something, but the world isn't like that. My experience. But if you don't
get the message through with the simplest amount,
writing loads is great, because if you've got loads of stuff, you can always clean out, get rid of it. Not having very much is difficult because you haven't got enough. But a lot of people miss out that step. The last one is, what can I get rid of now? I've got all this. Actually, I don't really need that. Or maybe that's actually a piece of another piece. I'll put that aside, I'll save it. That might be the start of another piece. I don't need that there. And pare it right down. What actually do you need? What's essential, you know? And then get it down to something meaningful. Where's the meaningful bit, you know?
And where's the melody, you know?
Where's the melody? Where's you know, you can blind people with science with chord sequences, and people just sitting there like that, you know, because it doesn't mean anything. It's just millions of chords.
Well, there we go. I think before my laptop gives up the ghost, it's on 4%. I think we should say thank you very much, Stan. It's been
thank you, Geoff.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been great fun.
Really appreciate you talking to me, and this such a great life, you know, and so many things that you've done.
I've been lucky.
Trees, you know,
I've been very lucky, incredibly lucky. You know, there's a lot of luck involved.
And thank you for the playing as well. It's amazing, incredible.
Good.
Right. See you soon.
Thank you for making it to the end of another podcast. Please subscribe if you want to hear more of them as they land. The Quartet Jazz Standards podcast is a UK music apps production. Quartet for iOS, taking your jazz play along to another level. Search for Quartet on the App Store or find out more at quartetapp.com.